League of Women. And thank you for joining us. And again, if we get kicked off, which I don't think is going to happen now, I think it's been resolved, but please just rejoin. And the announcement I have today, we talk about upcoming events that we have. And our next big public event is a public issues forum on Tuesday, December 7th at 7:30 p.m. on Zoom. And you can get the link on our website. And the topic is Final 5 voting proposal for Wisconsin congressional elections. This is a proposal that has been made to the state legislature. This is really interesting stuff. Takes a little bit to explain it, but it's a way to make sure voters' wishes are better considered. And right now, with our sharply divided state, about half of the people are happy and about half of the voters are unhappy after every election. This Final 5 voting proposal is a way to make more people happy, because if you would get to indicate not just your first and only choice, but you would get to rate other choices as well. So if your first choice of candidate didn't win, maybe your second choice did, or your third choice did. So it's a very interesting proposal, and I hope you will join us. It's a 1-hour Zoom on Tuesday, December 7th at 7:30. And again, the link is on our website. I will turn it over to Pat. All right.
Hello, everybody. I am in a car driving home from Philadelphia. The scenery is beautiful, but I will be muting myself so that you don't hear the road noise. We are delighted to have our guest today, and I have sent the information about her and her wonderful son, Michael Brown. And Michael was shot in 2012. And because he was an organ donor, he helped save the lives of many other people. And when we think about how do we, as a parent, a family member, a loved one, go forward with our life, get ready for some inspiration here today in this hour. And so I'll begin. I usually ask a little more questions and give a better description, but I'm going to want to mute as soon as I can, for the courtesy of everyone else paying attention today. And so, Colette, are you comfortable just leading off? And tell us about Michael. You raised a wonderful son to be such a generous person. And what are you hoping that the League members and our friends of the League join today and learn? It's really important in this theme that we have chosen to, how can we be better, not bitter? And you certainly are an example of that. So again, a warm welcome to you. And now I mute.
Thank you, Pat. And thank you for allowing me to come and tell Michael's story, which I always think that Michael's story created a story for me. In his life, of course, we have kids and they are our story. And even in his death, he is my story. And so I'm grateful to be here, and for the opportunity of every person who will listen and take in what I have to say. So I'd like to kind of start out with telling you who Michael was and how I got to this place that I am today. And so Michael was my oldest child. He was 24 years old when I got that call that no parent wants to get. And when I went to the hospital to meet him, they told me that he had suffered a wound that was going to be irreversible. And I was in the room with him in the ICU, and I said two things to God, because that's who I had to rely on at that point. And those two things were, I need you to go with me if this is the road we're going down. And I need his life to never be in vain. And so I didn't know at that time what that would cause me to have to do, but I was open for it because I'm a mother. But God allowed me to mourn. Even on maybe a day later, at that time it was called Wisconsin Donor Network, but it's called Versity now. They approached me and asked me how did I feel about organ donation. And I immediately thought about what I asked God in the room, to not let his life be in vain. But what I didn't know is what they told me about an hour after that conversation was that Michael was already a registered donor. He had registered at the DMV to be a registered organ donor. I likewise was registered at 18 when I got my first driver's license. I remember checking the box and saying, well, what am I going to do with him? But I never had that conversation with anyone, not a soul, not my kids, not my family. It was a decision that I made at 18 to say, this is what I would like to do because I don't know what else I would do with them. I had no knowledge of the things I have knowledge of today when I made that decision, 30, 40 years ago, somewhere in between there, I won't tell my age. But he had made that decision. And for a moment in such a hard place where grief was as heavy as it could possibly be, I got a sign. I had already said yes, but it was as if me and Michael agreed. And we never had the conversation. He never said, Ma, I'm going to sign up for this. And I never said, hey, guys, I signed up. But I knew then God was answering my request that his life would never be in vain. And I was truly, and still am, a woman of faith that God is in everything, no matter what it looks like. And that was a testing of every bit of faith that I had. Every bit. It was shaken to the absolute core. So it took about 48 hours for them to find people who matched everything that Michael had that was valuable. And so there were 4 people who got his organs. And from a teenage boy in the Midwest, I believe here very local, who had a heart issue and was at the brink of death. He got Michael's heart. To a gentleman on the West Coast who was a retiree who got a kidney. What I found very amazing about Michael's life, that he was able to extend life in his death. So he created a legacy that most of us will never have the opportunity to do. His life in death had as much meaning as it did when he lived. And although it has been a tragic situation, and next month, on 3 weeks from now, it will be 9 years. And although I come into this season of holidays, they'll never be the same. But I know that I have the joy of knowing that Michael's life will create grandchildren, will create families. And most of us will never have that opportunity. In organ donation, although many will sign up, only 2% will have the opportunity, 2 to 4% will ever have the opportunity to be an organ donor. And oftentimes people are afraid of something that may never, ever happen, because you have to transition or die a certain way in order for it to even be a possibility. So Michael suffered a head wound where all of his organs were still able to function for a period of time and to get to a machine to be able to continue to have the air function. Many people will never transition like that. So he created a legacy. He has a son. Aiden is 10 now. He was a year old when Michael passed. And I'm grateful. I'm a grateful mother in the midst of what some may never really come back from. I find a peace in the fact that his life will live on for decades, if not beyond decades. because of the possibility of those individuals who got an extension of life. I do know that I wrote a letter to every one of the recipients, and I knew that there was a chance that they may not reply because I started volunteering for Versity, and in that I met a lot of survivors who had received organs. And what I didn't understand or didn't know, I didn't have the knowledge of, was that most of the people who receive an organ um, have a spirit of regret. It's as if somebody had to die in order for them to live, and they operate in a place where they have remorse, not regret, remorse for what has happened. So they don't like to say much or don't know how to reply. But it enlightened me because I had all of these speaking engagements to inform people about who Michael was and what he had done that involved me in everybody else's life. And it gave me a sense of peace that is beyond my own understanding. I don't know. All I know is that the faith level that I had at that night to say yes to something I knew nothing about in its entirety literally changed the trajectory of my own life. I began to talk in churches, especially within the African American community, because there are a lot of myths that needed to be put to rest, at least as much as I could do. So I became that voice to say that the doctors will take care of you. They don't know that you are a registered organ donor. Those systems are not connected. The ambulance person doesn't know that you're an organ donor, so they're not deliberately not taking care of you. None of that's connected in a realm together. They have to talk to different people in order for all of that to come together. Um, so yeah, I am grateful for Michael's life. He has given me purpose beyond measure, which then created Loved and Lost for mothers who have lost children, to be able to help coach or bring them to a place where they can know life. There is life after loss, but you got to kind of choose it, find a purpose, find a reason in light of what has happened. Healing is possible. I'm a big component believer of healing. Healing is possible. I believe the organ donation was a part of my healing journey. In order for me to talk about it, to relate to those who had lost children or loved ones, and then to relate to those who got life because of it. It's like a dual purpose that I had no idea would be. So I think I'm hoping that that is what you were looking for, Pat, but that is really in a
Absolutely.
nutshell.
Yes, it's very powerful. You know, I also am a woman of faith who works for justice. And for me, I tell myself all there is love. And that's my basic message. I'm open to the interfaith community where people have different realities of what their spiritual life is and how they get their spiritual needs met. But it's all about love. And I hear that in abundance in Michael's life and in your life. And as we're dealing with more and more violence, and we're going to be featuring a speaker next month, you may know her, Arnita Holloman, and she's with the Office of Violence Prevention. You're nodding. And
Yeah.
how do you move forward honoring Michael's memory to not only be generous with our bodies, with our organs? I'm a cadaver donor too. We could talk about that. The medical
Yeah.
college needs bodies. And I thought, oh, mine's 73 years old. They don't need my body. But then I found out from friends that, yes, they would love to have my 73-year-old, but I'm not rushing. I'm not rushing. But, you know, how do you continue to honor not only his generosity, but to stop our young men from being killed? What are your thoughts about violence prevention?
Well, I think that that the old saying that it takes a village to
Mhm.
raise children, it causes us to have to be involved. I don't know how many times I've had to walk into situations because I am a minister that are hostile, that are hostile. I've had to minister to young men, meet them where they are. I remember one time I literally stopped on the side of the road. It, it was not me. Let me just say that. Whatever you believe, it was not me. And had to have a conversation with two young men. And it takes things like that. Those are moments. I was thinking the other day that we pass up a lot of memorable moments in our life because we allow fear to overtake us. We think that everyone is, maybe rude or not going to be accepted. But like you said, if we operate in love, then we can only get love. But not everyone is raised in love. The gentleman that killed my son, I thought I would never, ever get past the pain of not wanting to ever love or care about or think about him. But there came a time, and I think this is the first time I probably will publicly say this. I wrote him a letter because I had to forgive him. If I didn't forgive him, then what he did would keep me hostage.
Exactly.
What he did would keep me afraid, or and I didn't want to be hostage. And death doesn't get to win twice.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, when people don't even have to ask or apologize, it's our choice to liberate ourselves from that pain. And as you said, to be a hostage to fear, that's a really powerful, I commend you. That's the ultimate forgiveness.
It wasn't something that I wanted to do. It was something I needed to do. It was, and you asked me, how do the violence, regardless to how I feel, it's still a person.
Yeah.
And he has, and what I said to him is he has an opportunity that he took away from Michael. At some point, he will be out on these streets again. And actually next year, this time. And if in fact he doesn't get some kind of healing himself, how will he function? And so those are the things that we have to do as a community. Is not, I suffered a great loss, and I don't want to make that seem like hasn't been a big deal, because it really has. But if I don't do something for the people who are there also, how will we heal? Because most of them are getting out. They're not serving life sentences. They're serving very minimal time. Those laws definitely need to be changed. But because of that, they're mixing back into the same environment, and probably in some cases in our city, in an environment that's worse than when they went in. So you have to make a footprint. We have to make a footprint individually as much as we do as a whole community.
I'd like to open it up. Your story is a very powerful story. And Peggy, I will ask if you can see people, because right now all I see is my face and my friend's face. But if people would like to contribute their thoughts, to have a meaningful conversation while listening to the leadership of this strong mother. One question that you might want to noodle is, how are the siblings doing?
Absolutely. So siblings are always, I think, a voice that's not necessarily heard enough and doesn't have a lot of representation within our communities or our families, because people oftentimes focus on the mom and the father, but typically it's always mom first, and then it's dad, and then it's the siblings. So they kind of get pushed to the side. My son's brother and sister, they both have their own struggle. They don't quite understand how I am where I am. That's for sure. And it's been difficult because they both deal with it differently. Every one of us have dealt with loss differently. And I don't think that our community is very open to the fact that no one deals with it the same. So my son didn't say a word until about 6 years in. He was very vocal at his funeral. He was very vocal during the time that we lost him, but very shortly, he no longer wanted to talk about him at all, period. He didn't want to celebrate his brother's birthday. He didn't want to do any of that. And I'm sure it was because he was angry. And then one day he called and he was at work in the middle of his day, asked me to come to his job and had an absolute meltdown. It was 6 years later. My daughter, however, has dealt with some alcoholism and different things that that people try to get away from the pain of what happened. And so as a parent, you try to do everything you can, but I do realize that this happening to us changed our lives, and everybody won't respond the same. It is my hope that they will decide to heal and find the help that they obviously need in however that is. It may be a counselor, it may be their faith, however that is. But I think that the kids of siblings who have siblings who have transitioned or died, however you view that, are always kind of pushed to the side of the family.
Colette, could
agree.
you comment on the organization you formed following this?
Yes, so the organization is called Loved and Lost, and that's a nonprofit organization. It didn't start off as Loved and Lost. It started out as We Loved and Lost, which is turning into a more for-profit organization. But the nonprofit organization is Loved and Lost, and that deals with mothers who have lost children. And I think it's been 5 years, just about. I think this April will be 5 years. And what I do, or what it started out as, is that I had a prayer breakfast for mothers who have lost children the day before Mother's Day. Because some people have lost one child, some have lost several, and some just don't want to be around family. And there's so many dynamics that come with it. So the organization, what we did is created the prayer breakfast for mothers to come to, exclusively for mothers, to just be loved on, to be encouraged, to be enriched, however that is. There are pictures on the website where you find mothers who are embracing each other, mothers who are crying during the service. There are relationships that have formed. Deborah introduced me to the Women of League voters because she came to my event. And there are relationships that have formed over the last 5 years of mothers who didn't know each other. So it creates its own community. We also have a retreat in September, the third weekend in September, at a place called the Shalom House in West Bend. And it's a place where it's just serene, where you can just be. And we have different workshops that we do there. And so, yeah, that's what it offers. I personally deal with some mothers one-on-one. I haven't really had any group settings because I haven't had anyone really ask for those. But I've had individual sessions and things to help people figure out how to pick up pieces. Doesn't always happen the way we think it should, but there are options or views that need to be at least shown so that when you get ready, these are the things you can do.
Thank you for that. I'm going to ask the audience if you want to ask a question or make a comment, can use the raised hand feature. If you don't want to turn on your camera, that's just fine. I have one more question of a very practical nature. I've always checked the box on my driver's license, and I recently got a new driver's license and did it again, but then I was sent a form to fill. It was an online thing, and I remember thinking, was my checked box not enough this whole time or something? And now you tell me that you work with Versity on this. Can you explain
So
How's it
let
works
me
now?
say, yes. So let me say, I do not work with Versity. I am a volunteer. However, the systems have changed. Before, when you did it, when I did it when I was 18, it was check a box. And they have implemented a new system that allows you to get a certificate that says, hey, I'm an organ donor, but they want you to register online. Therefore, it goes across the United States. It's not just here, it's everywhere you travel. So when they look you up in their system, when they get the call from the hospital, no matter where you are, the different portals, because there are different, I can't think of what they call them, OPs or something like that, locations, they all have the same centralized information. That was not the case prior to, I think, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So now with the new driver's license and all of the system updates, they're asking that even if you were to go to an event where we would register you, because I've done those events too, where there's, they may set up at if you work at a hospital, we set up in the hallway and people register. It's actually all online now. When we finish this call, I'll say you can go to Wisconsin organdonor.com or .org and register. You will have that same link that you got maybe in your email to fill out, because you can donate organs, you can donate eyes, you can donate different, tissue and bone. So you can designate what you want if you don't want everything. So all of that's should be in that portal. You're on mute.
So thank you for clearing that up. Is there anyone who has a question or comment?
It looks like
oh,
Barb does.
Barb? Oh, there we go.
Hi. Yeah, I think you answered most of it. I was thinking the same type of thing. What organization, you said go to wisconsindonor.org online to be
You
one?
can go to Versity.
Okay,
You can
Versity.
go
That's
to
I'm missing. What, VERSITY?
I at the end. I at the end.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm sorry I interrupted.
That's okay. No, that's our local, but they do have organdonation.org or I can put it in the link. I can put it in the link before we end, okay?
That'd be great.
In the chat so that we can have it.
And you said that they didn't know that your son was a donor. How did they find out what?
Yep. So what we talked about, that check on the box. See, and that's why it took a minute for them to know that he was even an organ donor. But they asked me because they didn't know that's the thing that's going to be taken care of with the new process. So immediately when they get the call to say this is possibly a possible organ donor, the hospital never knows that. Versity has doctors and nurses and people who work to find out whether a person is a match. So, but the hospital knows that they may be a viable candidate for organ donation. And so they send in a team. But this new system that Wisconsin DMV has that's connected to Versity where people can register, it will take care of them knowing when they come to a family and say, hey, did you know that Colette was an organ donor? And how do you feel about that? Versus saying, how do you feel about that, Colette? And then finding out because of the paperwork that has to be gone through to say, hey, Michael already was registered as an organ donor. So it cuts the confusion to say, hey, one of the things that I go out when I talk to people, I tell them, you need to have this conversation with your family. You're making this decision, but in the midst of emotion, your family may say, no, we don't want that. And although the paper that you signed online is a legal document, they don't want to make your family suffer in another way. That's not their point. The point is that your wishes are heard and honored. But if your family gives a lot of resistance, that becomes a whole nother situation. So it's good to have a conversation with your family to say, this is what I want to do. And I need you to be on board with me. So it doesn't cause them more pain or agony trying to figure out, is this really what Barb wanted or Colette wanted?
And then my one other one, I think Pat answered, is there an age limit or are there parameters, anything?
No, I've heard that people that have had cancer have been able to donate. People who have had lung issues have been able to donate. 91 years old, I believe, is the oldest that I've heard that they were able to, that something was able to be donated to someone else. Because when you think about it, if you're not able to breathe, if you're breathing 50% more, you're breathing. So it just depends on what the need is, the match. I mean, there are so many variables that is just beyond imagination that for you to be a match, to me, it has to be God's will that you're a match.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm wondering, Colette, if you're not found to be a match for a donor, wouldn't the donation still be valuable for research?
If you signed up for that.
Oh, that's a separate kind of.
Yeah. I checked, and again, at that time, Michael hadn't checked all of those boxes, but I checked all of those boxes because, it was the end of his life. Like, whatever they needed to do, the research they may have needed, again, his heart, kidneys, and liver went to someone. But and I think on the description of today's Lunch and Learn, it says that he saved 10 lives, but in actuality, he saved 4 and enhanced the lives of 11 people. So there was a 74-year-old woman who needed a knee replacement. So some of his bone is a part of her body. Tissue, things like that used in surgery that people need. 11 people's lives were enhanced because of his life.
I had a great aunt who died at 89, I think, and this was 30 years ago. They took her eyes. They said she had donated her eyes, and I was thinking 89, but I thought maybe it was for researchers or something,
No, it's very possible that somebody needed her cornea, or I don't always say the word right, but yeah, it's very possible. And people who are almost blind, when they get that, I mean, it changes their life. So the age limit is that is a thought that should be a thought to most of us, but the reality is who knows until. It's crazy because in my mind, I think sometimes you're worth more than you know.
Yeah, I thought that was a very interesting perspective. I hadn't thought about that when you said that people who were recipients sometimes what they have to deal with having won the lottery, knowing that there are so many other people in line, and so many stars have to align for them to actually be the recipient. And I can imagine the mixed feelings with that.
Yes, I sat in a room and I didn't know. I knew I was coming to tell Michael's story. It was at Frederick Hospital, and I didn't know until halfway through that I was sitting in a room with like 25 people who had received something, and I was the only person who had given. And it was overwhelming. It took me a week to recover because I was caught between the feeling of Michael was so generous, and then the feeling of them being so remorseful. Like, and then they all thanked me as if Michael helped them all. But the reality is that some of them had never reached out to the person who saved or extended their life, and they didn't know what to say.
I have, my husband has a friend who, he used to describe him as like kind of a reckless, crazy guy. And then he told me at some point he had learned that that guy didn't expect to live to be 40 because of a congenital heart problem. And he thought that was part of the reason why, what the hell, what do I have to lose kind of thing. Then he got a heart transplant, and he's a different person now. My husband said he is super health conscious and all that. And he said he feels the responsibility for carrying on somebody else's life because of their generosity. And it obviously changed him completely.
That's exactly what the one person who wrote me back said, that his wife wrote me back, and I could hear her in her writing on his behalf to say that they would take very good care of Michael's kidney.
Yeah.
And I thought, I didn't get letters from everyone, but that one letter I think took care of everybody.
Anybody else have a question or comment? I'm just in awe of you, Colette, because I can't imagine in that moment and everything that would be going on, you could be generous. Somebody's
the call to collect stories.
Pat, you're really breaking up.
Maybe write a book or compile a book with your friends.
Oh, there.
I could barely hear.
She's suggesting you write a book, and I think she turned off her camera, which might be helping with the sound quality. Mary, did you want to say something?
I just wanted, oh, sorry.
Oh, two Marys.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Mary Ellen.
No, sorry. I just wanted to say thank you. I really don't have a question, but this is very helpful. Thank you. That was it.
You're welcome.
I wanted to say basically the same thing. It's an honor to meet you, Colette. It's an honor to meet Michael's mother. You're so clear. You're so inspiring. You just kind of glow. So I can only imagine everything you've been through to get to this point. And it's very clear you just must inspire so many people. You just have it all, Colette. You just have it all.
Well, I didn't just arrive here, that's for sure.
I know. And I'm thinking of a way to connect. I'm a retired social worker due to COVID, but I used to do kinship where I would visit many families who are taking care of relative children. And the reason, of course, families were taking care of relative children was often because of death and violence. So I'll also keep you in mind and maybe send it on to the kinship program for people to contact, because the grief is so deep and so widespread. And I don't know if people always have somebody to talk to, but boy, would you be the perfect person. You'd be the perfect person.
I always say Mike gave me purpose. I always knew I wanted to help people. That's always been in my DNA. I always wanted to leave people better than when we met. And, but Mike enhanced that. He allowed me to look at death differently, to not allow it to overtake me, but it does take work to do that. And I do, someone said about a book. So I just released a book. It's a very small journal, prayer journal, devotional. It's in regards to finding God's direction and in your life, but it's a 21-day journal, but I am writing one now that will also be for healing after loss. And it is also a 21-day journal. I'm hoping to release it on my birthday, which is December the 29th. And that one will be geared more towards this subject matter to help people kind of be encouraged, even if it's but for a short period of time, of something that they can go over and over again.
Colette, if you send us the news or, links, whatever to those, we can add them to our promotion of this program, of the recording.
Okay, I will do. My purpose for book writing or speaking is to really to encourage, because it is a hard place, and I will eventually write. I did talk to a few of the mothers who have lost their children and our organ donation. Their kids were organ donors, to write something in regards to our experience, because each one of us experienced something different, although we all came out with the same result. And that is that, our kids extended the life of someone else.
Anne, you have your hand up?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to apologize to everyone. I was the person evidently knocking you off your connection this morning, as I kept making additional practice sessions for this evening. And it would say a session is going, ongoing. And I thought it was the session I had set up before. And so anyway, I apologize. This session did not show up on our list. But I wanted to say to Colette, obviously your son, is by osmosis or through your wonderful parenting, assimilated your values of generosity and caring for others, because he set this up even without your knowledge. And I just think it's a really inspirational story. And thank you very much for sharing it with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Well, I think this is the time where we just do a little collective thank you to you, Colette. And I am going to buy your book, and I am going to read your book, and I will share it with other people I know who are grieving and working through their losses. So friends, this is the time to wildly unmute yourself, and maybe Peggy could call on people who have unmuted. And this is where we share our gratitude with you, Colette.
Truly inspirational. I am very glad I was able to be here and hear your message. Sherry has unmuted.
Colette, thank you very much. I'm always inspired by all the speakers, and you also, such a strong woman. I'm so impressed. So thank you very much.
Mary? You're unmuted. I don't know. I'm just calling on where I see people have unmuted.
Okay, there's two Marys. That's why I waited.
Oh, Mary Gleason.
Just to reiterate, thank you, Colette. Your journey is something special, and you are something special, and it's just, you've had a powerful effect. Thanks.
Is there anyone else who wishes to say something?
I do.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're in my upper left corner, and for some reason
That hand doesn't show up. Yeah, I just want to say thank you also, Colette. It was so helpful both on a practical and a spiritual level. And by the way, I'm a retired pastor also. You said you're a minister? Oh. Thank you.
And I did put the, it's donatelife.net in the chat for if you want to register, or you can go there and find out a whole lot of information. You have to take it a little bit at a time, because there is a lot of information. one person can save up to 8 lives and enhance the lives of 70. So yeah, you're important.
Yeah, I've always checked that box over the years on my license, but I just never knew it. And I didn't think it was there the last time, but maybe.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you're welcome.
Yeah, it was a box and then there was a sticker. And then this time they sent me the online thing after I got my new license. So, yeah, I'm glad they've got this greater ability to share the information as time is of the essence. And
Yes.
yeah. All right.
Anne has her hand up, I think.
Yeah, I just, again, want to say thank you so much. Your story is really, really inspiring. And I just so appreciate all the detail that you provided today. I learned a lot. Thank you so much. Appreciate
I'm
it.
grateful. You're welcome.
And here's Pat.
Many thanks. I want to get to know you better, Colette. I'm going to make that effort. And for people who want to hear any more league announcements, I will turn it back to Peggy. I do know our Cafe Book Club is going to meet in person the first Friday of December, and we're going to meet from 11 to 1. If you want more information, you can just email me. I'm not going to figure out the chat while I'm in this crazy highway with many trucks. So Peggy, I turn it back to you for any more league announcements or any other friends who want to make announcements of things that are happening in the community. I always want to put in a pitch, let people vote, and let's get our young people motivated that their vote matters. So back to Peggy.
Yep. Well, that's our mission, Pat, and a lot of people hard at work at that. I encourage everyone to check out our calendar on our website, lwvmilwaukee.org. There on our website, you can sign up to get our newsletters. Then you'd be in the loop. You don't have to be a member to sign up for that. Next year, we have 4, possibly 3 elections. So we will be pumping out a lot of information on that and encourage people to be part of that so you can spread the information among your social circles as well. And seeing no other hands, I guess I will adjourn with profound thanks to Colette for sharing her journey, and grateful for all of you who were able to join us today. And we will get the recording on our YouTube channel so many more people can listen. Right? Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to Brandy and to Peggy for pitching in, making this work while I'm traveling.
Safe travels, everyone.
Thank you all so much for
Bye.
having me.
And
Bye.
Colette, once you get your car started and hit the road,